What's going on, everybody? I am the Batic and you are the internet. Welcome back to another video. Today we are talking about Percy Jackson and the Olympians, the TV show, not the two movies that came out in like the early 2010s, I want to say, and were poorly received, rightfully so. Percy Jackson and the Olympians is based off the hit novel series by Rick Riordan that is still continuing to this day. They're still adding on novels. Original 5 books have never gotten the proper adaptation, never gotten the proper attention, never got the proper introduction to the public that the series very much deserves. Those books were foundational in my love for when I used to read. And actually got me into reading. It actually got me excited to read, and I've always had such a love for those books for that reason. And I never got the proper adaptation, and I really wanted one. The first season, it goes over the first book, The Lightning Thief, in such a way where obviously it follows the book more tightly than the movies did. It follows a lot of the same beats, a lot of the same story arcs, and I'm very happy it did. There's so many moments that were missing from that original movie that they brought back and brought into the story here, especially like the St. Louis arc. I was happy to see those moments play out in the series. And very much, I think they nail almost every one of those beats. It feels alive. The action doesn't feel the greatest, I would say. The action in every one of those scenes feels slow paced. It feels kind of funky. I can't explain why. Obviously, a lot of it's CGI that they have to work with like creatures like the Chimera. Even like Medusa has to have some type of CGI usage instead of using practical effects, because I mean, have you ever seen a Chimera before? I thought not. So the usage there and having such young actors probably has an effect on the action. It's probably because they're so young and they can't have these massive action-packed scenes, and that's perfectly fine. They get the point across, and it feels fluid enough where it doesn't feel like it's like breaking up the action or like going too lightly on the action that was needed. So overall, I think that the action's fine, and it hits those points of time, and it hits the action beats properly, where it doesn't feel like it's abhorrent or anything like that. It's fine action, I should say that. It's not your John Wicks or whatever. It's your just okay common action movie type action, but with a little bit of a slower pace. But the story, for the first, I want to say even 6 episodes, hits the beats we're thinking. Everyone in all the fans of the books are kind of like, okay, this is where we're going to head next. It's nice to see it happen in real time. And then episode 6 happens, which is the Lotus Casino thing, and where a lot of fans actually do love the original movie because of the poker face montage that they have in that movie, which actually is a pretty decent sequence, I have to say that. But here in the show, they take a little bit, they mess around with it. Obviously, the story beats were obviously mixed around a little bit, adapted differently for TV, because when it comes to adaptation, you're going to have to change things. You're going to have to move things around to make things work in either a TV series or a movie, whatever format you're using instead of a book. But episode 6 comes around, and they throw a huge curveball at us book readers, and honestly, it's the best thing. People are going to complain about accuracy and how it failed as an adaptation, but if you really, really wanted that story, to go back and read the books. Obviously, you want to see it play out in real life, whatever. But the curveballs and the changing of story beats, because they don't go that far off the beaten path. They do come back. It's a quick detour, and they come back to what we know and love about the books. But that curveball keeps you on your toes for what you could see in the future of the series and what they could change. And obviously had Rick Riordan's approval, because he was very, very involved in the creation of the TV series rather than what he was with the movie, where he was barely involved at all. So obviously he signed off on everything, and honestly, big props to Uncle Rick for throwing us the curveball instead of having us just go through this the same old story that we've read probably 100 times in the last 20 years. We're treated to the same old story, but at the same time we're on the ride with people who have never read the books or watched the original movie or whatever, and we're kind of all in the same bucket, because there was a point in time where I was on TikTok, and it was book readers versus TV show watchers versus movie fans, and movie fans we didn't really consider them. But as soon as that episode dropped, we were all in the same bucket. We were all on the same team. We were all just enjoying the show and watching the show and keeping our eyes glued to the show to understand, see what happens, because now we don't know what the fuck's happening. And honestly, I can't be more than happy about that. It was a great surprise by the team around Percy Jackson to be able to do that. The way they had to pull it off was through the acting performance. Walker Scobell, who you may know from like movies like The Adam Project with Ryan Reynolds, is our main lead in Percy Jackson, whatever you want to call him. He does an awesome job. I love him as Percy. Obviously, it's a huge task to take on such a huge role. You're giving your next potential 5 to 7 years to a TV show that you don't even know is going to work out, and you're taking this huge role in where people may hate you for it, because people will hate you for any role you take in Hollywood, especially if it has this huge like backbone to it, like James Bond, or like you take like a Batman role. So there's a huge like responsibility to have such a role, especially when a role that hasn't been properly adapted before. And Walker Scobell is, I believe, 15. He's 15 years old taking on this role, and he's nailing it. He nailed this role. He did grow a lot. I realized when I was watching the series that he was pretty short at the start of filming, at least, and then at the end of the show, he's pretty tall. I want them to play up the comedy a little bit more in the second season. Hopefully we get one. Because Percy's a very comedic character. A lot of his internal dialogue is very comedic, and just in general, Percy's personality is just mainly just the sass god, I think, is like comedian let's call him. So I really want them to play up the comedy a little bit more, and Walker has the chops to do it. We saw in the Adam Project, at least, that he can play as Ryan Reynolds, and that's pretty hard to fucking do. Leah Jeffries plays Annabeth Chase. There was a lot of controversy with her casting because she's a black girl instead of a blonde, and honestly, it fits better because the blonde stereotype is no longer really exist anymore. It's very played out now, and people really don't follow that and don't really care for it. So back then, it was very much a different thing, and but she's awesome in this. I really wish they play a little more with the antagonistic relationship between Percy and Annabeth, because for 4 out of the 5 books, they're kind of like a bickering couple, but they're not together, obviously. But towards like the 5th book, they start having these romantic feelings, at least. But in the TV show, they seem to push up that timetable at least a little bit. It seems like at the end of the first season, we're already starting to get the hints of romantic interest between the two. I'm gonna probably butcher his name, and I very much apologize. Orion Simhandri, who plays Grover. Honestly, he might be the second strongest out of the kid actors here. I really don't like to criticize kid actors, and that's why I'm not trying to criticize them. I'm trying to give them as much praise as possible, because they still are kid actors, and they're still very much kids. And all 3 of the main characters nail their roles. But Grover, I think is the strongest. They change a lot from his character to being this cowardly kind of like this cowardly hero, kind of like the Cowardly Lion, to more of an intelligent character. I feel like he's more intelligent than he is in any other adaptation, and I really do appreciate the role he takes in this, especially when it comes to like Ares. And speaking of Ares, my friends, we have a perfect intersection for me. This is a movie channel, and this is also a wrestling channel. And Ares is played by none other than Adam Copeland, or as the kids like to call him, the rated R superstar, Edge. Yeah, Edge is in this. He plays Ares, and honestly, perfect casting. If there's a man that looked like he wanted to murder a 12-year-old, that's the man I would think wanted to murder a 12-year-old. And with his roles that he's done before, like in the Vikings and other projects he's worked on, obviously he's had some practice when he was absent from the WWE to go off and act. And honestly, the acting chops are awesome. I think he's nails Ares. I think he knows how to play the character. He plays the character very angry, very, very stubborn, very arrogant, and honestly, that's just Ares to a T, character-wise. And I think that Adam Copeland nails the role. And I'm gonna say that for most of the characters, because I think the casting here is almost perfect. I think that there's a few miscastings here, personally, but honestly, I don't really mind. I can live with them. They're not very abhorrent or anything like that. I think every one of these castings is awesome. The guy who plays Chiron, Glenn Turman could have been better. I prefer someone else. I prefer a lot more depth. I don't know. I always figure Chiron as like this deep spoken character, and this Chiron just doesn't do it for me. I don't know what it is about him. I do have to say that the CGI that's used in this is very much Disney Plus like. Disney Plus shows, especially with like Marvel and stuff like that, and Star Wars, has the tendency to under-deliver on its CGI. There's a lot of people who like point to like She-Hulk as poor CGI. Obviously, you're gonna have that much CGI in your show. It's gonna be a little bit off sometimes. But in this show, it has a much smaller budget, based off an IP that's not as popular as Marvel is. So it has a much smaller budget, and the CGI, especially the backgrounds, I want to say it's more the backgrounds than anything, looks odd. It has this uncanny valley effect to it, and I really bothered me for a large part of watching the show, because it kind of just looks like there's a painting behind them, and that was used back in the day. But nowadays, that's no-go. Like, go on site or something like that. I think they use the Mandalorian technology, that screen that goes around everything, but honestly, it doesn't look good here. I don't know why it doesn't look good. Like I said, it kind of just looks like this uncanny valley effect, and I really wish it was better. The CGI elsewhere, the Minotaur looks good. It's in the dark though, which the dark can hide a lot of mistakes in CGI. There's stuff like the Master Boat that looks excellent. Most of the creatures look awesome. The Chimera, the Furies, I think they're called the Furies in this. At least it might be the Roman name. Look awesome. So, I mean, the CGI is well spent, but I don't know what the fuck is going on with the backgrounds. But overall, the Percy Jackson Olympian series does deliver on its promise to adapt faithfully the book, but also it gives us the curveballs to keep us, at least the book readers, on our toes. And I very much love that they adapted this series almost perfectly. And I'm so happy that we may be getting a second season, because it hit record numbers on Disney Plus. But yeah, if you have not watched Percy Jackson Olympians, I very much recommend it. It is a blast to enjoy. I'd probably give it a solid 8 out of 10 for the first season, and I can't wait for the second season to get rolling. Apparently they may be already writing it, or may already finished writing the second season, so maybe we'll get Sea of Monsters by the beginning of 2025. Hopefully. Maybe not that, but yeah, the show is excellent. It does what it can with the budget it's given, and it delivers tenfold. But thank you guys for watching. I am the Bat Duck, and you are the internet. Subscribe down below, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.